Monsieur le Président, merci, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor. In my named place, I have been awarded the tricolour, but I'm afraid I still cannot speak French. So I'm going to have to do my presentation in English for you. It's, as you can see from the title, it is the impact of the 2012 Olympic Equestrian Games on Cirencester. Now, you've been taken all around the world today, to Germany, to Hungary, to Iceland, and now you're going to England. And it is really, to tell you a little bit about where I come from, as I don't know how many of you have travelled, but the university that I represent was founded in 1845 by Royal Charter. We're very small. We have 1,194 students, which is very small. It's about the size of a college in Oxford University. We do research, but also we have the normal sort of equine-related undergraduate programs and postgraduate programs. But the important thing about our courses is that we don't have any horses. They are to do with business and they're to do with management, which is, we presume that when the students come to our university, they already know about horses. And so we try to teach them about how you run a business. And I'm very lucky every year, I think I use the word lucky, to come with about 30 students to France and Germany to look around, and we come here, we're very lucky to come here to Saumur. But the other side of my career now, I used to be a lawyer for over 20 years, but I gave all that up, and I now work with my university, but also I run my own business, which is to do with the media. And that is how I became involved with the Olympic Games. You can see there as well, just for those of you who really do want to know, that my university is in Cirencester, which, if that's working, I don't know if that is working, it's the small block there on the west of England, which is not far from a city called Bristol. But, one moment, il ne va pas? Oh, there we are, thank you. The theme was the impact of the 2012 Olympics equestrian events on touristic development of Cirencester, but I had to change that. The reason I am here today is because of the charming persistence of Madame Piquel, who wouldn't let me say no to coming to talk to you. And when we talked about Cirencester, it is a very small town. And so I had to expand my research, my work, to look into Gloucestershire, which is what we call a county, and I'll tell you a little bit about Gloucestershire. But 2012 is a very big year for the people living in the United Kingdom, not only because we have the Olympics, and this is probably the only time, well, it will be the only time in my life that I'll be able to work with the Olympics in England, but also we have the Diamond Jubilee for our Queen. We still like queens and kings in the United Kingdom, and it is her 60th anniversary of her coming to her throne, and so there are an awful lot of tourist opportunities, and these include all sorts of parties, events, which do involve horses, and particularly with the Diamond Jubilee, the Queen has always been associated with horses, and there are a number of events which show this, including the military. So 2012, from the point of view of tourism, is very, very important, and we'll be having a little bit a look at that later. But as you can imagine, with the Games coming up in about 3 months' time, it is very difficult, because this is really, what I'm presenting to you today is really work in progress, because an awful lot of the results will become clear after the event. But I thank you to Sylvine, because she got me thinking, and it may be something that my students after the Olympic Games can take on. So it is a very good idea, and there's a great deal of scope for research there. How did I do my methodology? Well, it wasn't too difficult, because Gloucestershire, as I say, we'll see in a minute, is not the biggest county. So what I did was I read whatever literature I could find on the internet, and as with a lot of research in the academic world, you have people with agendas, and so it was a question of trying to find a balance between those people who felt that the Olympic Games had no effect, in fact they had a detriment, and other people who felt they were going to have a very positive effect. And so, as I say, there's a lot of scope for some very good research. And it took a reasonable amount of time, but as a lawyer I found myself, it was quite easy to work through an awful lot of the material and to actually find out what were the key issues. And they soon became some very identifiable trends, not only in what might happen this year, but also looking back at previous Olympics. And as Monsieur le President said before, it is the importance of economics that comes down to it, because an awful lot of the horse businesses that I talked to, it was more about the fact that their businesses were a way of life rather than actually being businesses from which they were going to make a lot of money. And so it is this strange mixture in the horse world. I spoke to some of them using semi-structured interviews by telephone, and I also interviewed one or two stakeholders. So as I say, now one thing that is interesting is over the last few days, again, having been a lawyer, is that we love definitions. And so it is interesting how it may become important to actually identify in a global sense what some of the definitions are, including the equestrian industry. Because as you probably all know, in England, the horse is not an agricultural animal. It is not looked after by the Department of Agriculture. It falls under sport and leisure, and so consequently there are no subsidies for horses, and so consequently it is seen in a completely different light a lot of the time in other countries. And so from the point of view of talking to people involved, I was talking to people who had a business which was either going to be horses or leisure, but in fact the two mixed together very, very much as I spoke to them. Just to go back, this is Gloucestershire. I just gave you a couple of pictures to try and give. I'm not brave enough to do the whole presentation without pictures. But as you can see there, it is a very typically English, and as you've seen in the films, it has a population of about 582,000 as a county, and it has a number of towns in there. And in the year 2009, about 13 million people came, or 13.5 million people came to visit Gloucestershire in some form of tourism, not necessarily equestrian tourism, because as I say, it could just be coming to see the sights, or it could be coming to stay in hotels, but it is a significant part of the money that comes into Gloucestershire. And the value that was put on that was somewhere in the region of £871 million. So it is a very significant part, and it's something that we're taking very, very seriously, because as with leisure, it is one of those things that you have to keep nurturing because you can't stand still. The equestrian side of Gloucestershire, again, it's I've now completely confused because I'm not sure what the capital of the horse is in France, whether it's Deauville or Saumur. I was going to say Saumur, so I could, at least get away safely tonight. But in fact, Gloucestershire has a very significant equestrian presence. And you can see there at the bottom of the picture, on the right-hand side is one of our large chateaux. It's Badminton House, and we have the comté, the eventing there, which is badminton horse trials. And the one in the middle is Cheltenham Racecourse. And then the one on the left is a very, very traditional English scene, which I'm sure, again, you will associate with England, which is hunting for foxes. And as I say, the tourism and equestrianism has a very significant economic impact, but also very important social importance of bonding the community. In fact, we have some 250,000 visitors who come to the Cheltenham Festival of Racing over 4 days. And badminton horse trials, likewise, for 4 days brings in 250,000 people. And unfortunately, this year, badminton horse trials was cancelled because of the bad weather, the rain, which we have in England a lot, and the figure that was put on the loss to the local community was £8 million. So you can see that it is very significant when you have these large sporting events because they have tourism, and as I mentioned very briefly later on, there is the knock-on effect of hotels, the restaurants, and all the other things that go to represent tourism. We have a mix of horse equestrian pursuits in Gloucestershire. We have hiring a horse, which you've talked about over the last couple of days. Trekking is also very, very popular. And in England as well, people they pay to come and hunt. So people will come, they won't have a horse, they will hire a horse, and they will go out with the pack of hounds that you can see there. It's a controversial subject, but it is very, very popular. And finally, something else that hasn't been mentioned over the last day or so is that polo is very, very popular in Cirencester. And the economics of polo is very, very interesting, but again, it's a way of bringing money into the county. So there are the same two sections that have been talked about before. People who own their horses and come to ride in our county, and people who don't own their horses and who actually hire their horses. Now, this is where the equestrian part of the Olympic Games is going to be taking place. It is called Greenwich Park. It's a royal park, and it is in London. And the best example that I can give to you, if you can see those buildings in the background, that is the financial city of London, and it is like you had a huge horse event with La Défense in the background. And again, it's very exciting to have our equestrian event right in the middle of London, because it's not usual and horses aren't seen these days in London. The proximity to the city is something that the organisers were very keen to try and encourage, and they have gone with it. And the whole of the site is sustainable in that 2 weeks after the event is finished in August, there will be nothing there to see. There is no legacy of the event. It's going to be taken away on this particular occasion with no damage to the park. But the great thing about it being held in London, so close to the city, it is an ideal opportunity for new people to come to equestrian sport. People who have never seen it. I worked on the test event because I'll be working with the Olympics. People came to see us last, and the children who had never seen horses before who lived in London, it was quite awe-inspiring. It was very, very moving to see children cheering at the horses as they went past because we are so used to them in places like Gloucestershire. But the other point I'd like to make here is the importance in tourism, sport, of the media. And so an important part of the Olympics is going to be getting those pictures onto TV all around the world. And I will talk about that in a moment. But it is that idea that if people see things on TV, they can actually get motivated to try them. And it's very much a question of trying to get the right shot. And funnily enough, the one picture that we want here, I don't know if you remember the Barcelona Olympics, but it was the picture of the diver, I don't know if the translator will have a problem, the high diver from the high board set against the backdrop of Barcelona. Here we are hoping there is going to be that one iconic picture of a horse jumping with the City of London in the background. And the Olympics does mean income. We are talking about, sorry, it's been cut off there, but about nearly 908,000 visitors are supposed to be coming to London over the 4 weeks or so of the event, producing nearly £582 million. So it's going to be a lot. And the success of the British team, and I've put there that we're the fifth position, and I appreciate with the French teachers of equestrian being here, it is always very difficult who is going to win the medals, but I think it is very, very important because winning medals means that people become interested. It becomes media. It goes into the newspaper, people watch it, and they want to be associated with it. And we have found this not only with horses, but also with other sports like cycling, which has become very, very important. One of the cornerstones of the bid for London was there had to be a legacy. There had to be something that was being given by London to the people by the Olympics. It wasn't just going to be an event and then everyone walked away. It was going to be that there was going to be something else. And so they came up with the name of the legacy, which is Hoof. And Hoof is this way that they hope that they are going to be able to actually introduce new people to riding. And so consequently, you can see there with the success of Hoof in London, it's been successful so far. A lot of riding establishments have been set up and have been helped by money from our government. And they have two very clear objectives. One is to raise participation, and two is to empower local equestrian businesses and help them grow. And that's not just London, that is across the country. And one of those businesses is, because it's equestrianism, is tourism. So again, there is this synergy between the two. And as I say, it is also, we have identified that it is very important the work that horses can do, and it's been mentioned before, with handicapped and deprived children. And last month, the website went up, so it is now rolled across the country of the UK. And actually, as it says there, it's not only to get people who have never ridden before, but as you can see in that site there of the website, it's to encourage people who have been involved in riding to come back to riding. And somebody said to me, are you going to be riding horses, Peter? And I said, I think probably carriage driving is better. So, anyway, moving on. The research I was able to find is that it does indicate there are some very positive thoughts about London. That there could be, and I'm sorry, but you can see there's nearly 1 billion visitors that they're thinking is going to be coming to London. And the spending will be somewhere in the region of £582 million, which is a big bonus to any economy, especially with the way that the world economy is at the moment. And that is broken down, as you can see there, people from international, which means that there'll be a number of foreign visitors and also people from going to London itself. But it is going to have a significant effect on our economy. Also there you can see something that I found, which was sent out by the Deloitte Tourism, which was to do with the effect that the Olympics has on an economy and on tourism. There is a factor which has been identified across the Olympics, which is called displacement. And what displacement means is that people, sometimes you have visitors going to the city for the Olympics, but at the same time, you have a number of people who say, I'm not going to go to London, I'm going to go somewhere else in the UK for my holiday this year, and people who actually live in London will move out for the period because it is going to be very busy, and it'd be interesting to see, how many people do. But it is this phenomenon, and you can see there in that graph that they divided into 3 areas: pre-Olympics, during the Olympics, and post-Olympics for a couple of years afterwards. And you can see there that there is a significant increase in international arrivals after an Olympic Games, apart from some reason the United States and China. But we have identified in England that there could be a number of people coming to the United Kingdom for tourism, and they have identified 3 markets: India, Russia, and China. And again, this has economic ramifications because obviously their economies are that little bit stronger. So, just moving quickly onwards, Gloucestershire is trying to capitalise on this. Unfortunately, as I said before, the problem is that sometimes it's not as organised as it could be because people don't see it as a business opportunity. So when I spoke to the people who are involved, I'm not going to take you through this, it was really rather limited because there are not that many horse events or horse stakeholders in Gloucestershire, but I managed to speak to about 50% of them. 64% of those I spoke to said that they did have a tourist element to their business. And that could be anything. It could be people coming to stay with their horse, which we talked about in Australia, people who are actually coming down to hire a horse, people wanting to come down and have lessons, people who wanted to go trekking, people who wanted to learn how to play polo. So it is very diverse. A lot of them hadn't heard of the legacy, but when I talked to them, they said that is something that would interest them because they feel it's very positive, that they can move forward and there'll be something after the Olympics. And so consequently, I think that whoever carries on this research, which I hope that someone will in my university, they will have that opportunity to see whether people did move forward. We are preparing for the Games. As I say, I spoke to the head of the tourism in Gloucestershire, and he said, as you can see in the quote there, it will have a secondary and tertiary effect. And what that means is that there will be businessmen coming to stay in the hotels rather than going to London possibly. It could be the displacement, or it could just be that people will stay on for a holiday. But it will affect the hotels and the equestrian, and again there is this mixture between sport, tourism and leisure. And as I say, it is something that we'll be able to follow up on afterwards. So to conclude, after Sylvine asked me to do this, it became very interesting to see the potential. There is a potential for the utilisation of the Games. I think everybody has to think positively and has to be motivated to make it work. And I think that that can happen in Gloucestershire as well, as they see it as a very positive thing. The indicators that I think that people will be researching to, I'll be encouraging people to research, are the change in the number of tourist inquiries, how much new activity, how many people have come to Gloucestershire, and finally, the economic upturn to see what it actually meant, money in the bank. Businesses are very receptive to the opportunities, and I think that it is very, very exciting opportunity for research after the Games. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Thank you very much.